Alright students, as we prepare to work through our sculptural form and the additive process, and when I say the additive process, that simply means we're going to be adding clay instead of taking it away. The carving process is subtractive, we take the clay away. The additive process is when we add clay to our piece. And if we're at that step, that means your slab is dry enough and it is standing up on its own and you have removed the drape. Okay. As we start to work through the sculptural process and you start to build your sculptures, you need to remember a couple things. If you're going to have this slab out in the open, in the exposed air, you need to protect it from drying out too fast. You can do this by lightly spritzing it with water every 5 to 10 minutes, which can get annoying after a while. But if you consistently spray it, eventually it'll stay soft. You can go to the back of the room, grab a light damp towel. Remember, not a paper towel, but a cloth. And you can just keep this on it for the class period while you work, or you can simply keep it in the bags, or you can lay the bags on top of it as you work. The reason I say this is because you're probably going to need to have it out so you know what size to make your sculptures and you can kind of plan where you're going to have it. But you can't just let it sitting out in the open all period or it will get way too dry. So either lightly put a cloth on it so it stays moist through the class period, keep the bags on top of it, or keep lightly spritzing it with water so that it doesn't get too dry. Alright, let me quickly take you through the sculptural process here. This is what I see students doing a lot to get started, and this would be considered the wrong way to do things. So they'll start by rolling out a slab, similar to this one here, which I'm not exactly sure why you would start that way, but they'll take a little roller and they'll roll a slab. And then they'll get out their reference picture, here's my llama, and they'll draw it on the slab, and then they'll cut out the slab, and then they'll say, look, here's my sculpture. Okay? Does this look three-dimensional to you? No. This looks like I created a llama with a tad bit of dimension out of a slab. Okay, it has no form. It is flat. It doesn't have like a front or a back or a side. It is just a flattened llama. Okay? This is not how you want to get started making forms that look three-dimensional. You're going to want to get some clay, like a ball of clay, and you're going to want to determine, based off of your sketches, how big I'm going to want it to be, my sculpture, and where I want to place it. Okay? Do I want to place it directly in the center, or will that create my slab to be not functional anymore? Like if you wanted to put stuff on it, probably wouldn't put your sculpture right in the center. Am I going to put it on the side? Depending on what your slab looks like, you could potentially put it on the outside. That wouldn't be good for mine, but that is another thing that you could think about. And you want to think, where do I want to put it and how large do I want it to be? Okay? And when you're done working with your slab, make sure it stays covered so it doesn't get dried out. So I have my clay here, and again, if we're using small pieces, we do not need to wedge it, only if we're using big chunks. And you're going to start by just creating a ball. This is where it's going to be really important for you to have your iPad out with all of your reference images so you can know what you're doing. Okay? And you're going to go ahead and get started by taking this ball form and starting to press and pull to shape it how you want. Now, at first, this is going to really look like a blob shape, but eventually it will take the form of whatever it is you're making. All right, so my sculpture is pretty much getting finished. I obviously don't have back legs on it yet. You might have noticed that I was constantly turning my sculpture as I worked on it. I was looking at it from the front and from the side and from the back, and I was also referencing my images as I did that. That way I can see things in the three-dimensional world. I don't have any details on this yet, like a face or fur. That's something I can add later once it gets a little bit more in the leather hard stage. It's too soft right now to do any carving, but I can still continue to add on and build my little sculpture here, my little additive piece. Once it's completely done and I've added all of that, it will be ready to add to my slab, but we're not quite there yet. What I want you to do at the end of the period is when you go and bag this in your sculpture, you can go ahead and take your slab out, set a piece of paper towel on top of your slab, and lay whatever it is that you've created on top of that paper towel, and then double bag everything. That way your sculpture will stay safe and it will stay nice and soft and workable for the next day, and it will not stick to your slab as long as there's a paper towel underneath.